Using his freedom of speech to its fullest extent, it's John James and Freedom's Pep Rally. Now, America's friendliest host, your buddy, John James.
Please welcome Annie Palumbo. Did I say that right, Annie?
Yes, you did. Good morning. Thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you for being on. And boy, we had a nice little chat going there last night, didn't we? We talked for quite a while on a text. It was great to get to know your story a little bit.
Yes.
And this is still an issue, right? You're in Chesapeake, Virginia.
No, we are in Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Okay, Virginia Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And the school district there is mandating masks, and they're trying to mandate you not to speak anymore.
Exactly. So last week we had a school board meeting. At first it was to be mandated by the school boards, and just over in Chesapeake, a town over, they said no masks, optional. Our school board voted masks for our kids, and then the governor had his health commissioner 2 days later say, nope, masks are now mandatory for all schools, including private.
What, including private?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now, tell me about this woman. This woman that was she endorsed by Planned Parenthood, and she is the one saying she wants to protect the children by making them wear masks?
Yes, she is one of the school board members. She's actually the vice chair. Her name is Kim Melnick. She's also running for delegate. So that's scary, because if she gets that seat, she will be in the House of Delegates and a school board member. And she was endorsed by Planned Parenthood, and I'm very proud of it, and saying she's all for the rights of people's bodies, basically. My body, my choice. So I have a big problem with that when it comes to abortion, but not for kids and parental rights.
You know, that it's always interested me, Annie, how my body, my choice. And by the way, I totally agree with that. But they're denying the existence of another body when it comes to abortion. And that's not my body, my choice. That's my body. And by the way, my child's body, my choice. Not so, after the child is born, then you have choices about your children, like you would like to have whether or not your children wear a mask. And they have proven to, I don't know if you've heard the study that came out recently, but children were studied between 3 months and 3 years old. Since COVID began, the IQ of these children has dropped an average of 21 points. Isn't that something? Now, have your children been...
You can't
yeah, I know.
Well, your brain for 7 or 8 hours a day. You can't.
I know, they're very uncomfortable, and I'm telling you, it affects the psyche of adults who don't see the reactions. I mean, our faces, this is how we interact. We interact through smiles. We interact through facial expressions, and there's been none of that. And when it comes to communicating, how important is it to see somebody's mouth move, especially if you're in a noisy place, if you're a little hard of hearing? I mean, forget about it. You've got kids who may be a little hard of hearing. Having a teacher talk in a mask, it's hard to understand what they're saying, and vice versa. Do you think?
It is. And the fact that the school board, they actually lied about the numbers to make their vote sound more reasonable. They, right in the middle of the meeting, they were called out. We actually have 25 out of every 100,000 cases of COVID. They had said it was 114 out of 100,000 people. So they lied right in the meeting. They were called out with regards to it. So they lied to make us look like we were in the red zone when we weren't in the red zone. But they didn't care. Even when they were called out and admitted the error, they still voted to mask our kids. Not all school board members. There's 7 that are really bad. We are actually starting a recall effort to get rid of them, but they are really bad. They have come after me, attacked me. You should see the stuff that came out in the news last night. Anyway, they are wrong. We're going to fight them. And it's insane that they're not even listening to the numbers from the Virginia Health Department.
That is insane. Now, how many other parents are like you and getting up and daring to make some noise and not being shy about it?
Well, we've been doing these rallies for a few months now because we have more than masks to worry about here. We
Right.
have race and, the transgender stuff. So our movement is growing rapidly. And especially since my video went so viral nationwide last week, so many parents, I wake up to about 200 messages a day saying, you've empowered me. And it's not about me. I actually said a prayer before I went up there. I had notes that day. And I mean, God just spoke through me. Wasn't my proudest moment, but there is such thing as righteous anger, and Jesus did flip the tables in the town square. So as a mom, knowing that my kid is going to go to school masked all day, it infuriates me.
Amen. Amen. And it does inhibit, I believe it inhibits the learning. It affects the psychology. Kids have committed suicide. There's abuse, there's substance abuse, there's depression, there's anxiety. I mean, and this is a kid's formative years. What are you doing to them in their formative years when their brains are still trying to grasp what life is, let alone why they're being muzzled all day long?
It is child abuse. And you know what? Some people come at me and say, you're acting whatever, XYZ. And I said, okay, tell me something. If you saw a sex trafficker or somebody hitting a child, would you say something or would you just sit there? So I'm not going to be quiet. They're trying to silence me. I did receive a letter from the school board telling me that serious actions will occur if I continue to act the way I did. The local news did a story last night. The anchor that did that story said we will be removed from the school board chambers forever if I continue to speak up, basically, like I did.
Yeah, I saw this in the letter you sent me. Can I read some of it? Is that okay?
Sure can.
All right. It says, Dear Ms. Palumbo, this letter is sent to warn you that further conduct on your part to disrupt school board meetings will no longer be tolerated and may result in more serious action by the school administration. Now, to me, you were exercising your right to free speech.
Exactly.
To me, as a casual observer. At school board meetings on July 20th and August 10th, you have repeatedly yelled out during meetings, arrest me, arrest me. America is watching. I love that. I love that. Defying them to pull you out. And what would they have looked like had you been arrested right there? I mean, that would go against them big time.
The funny thing is I never did say arrest me, arrest me. If you look at both of my recordings from last week and 2 weeks or 3 weeks prior, I never said arrest me. But the gentleman who's in charge of the meeting, who's sitting up on his little throne, is going like this when we're talking to get us out of there. And that's when I said, go ahead, kick me out. Use me, for example. I never said arrest me. So they're taking my words to make it look more dramatic. But you know what? We are not giving up this fight. I'm not going to lay down. That's
terrific. That's terrific. They ended up here, the final paragraph. The school board welcomes comments from the public during the public comment sessions of the school board meeting agendas. Members of the public may also contact the school board members directly to discuss their concerns, like that would help. Cooperation with decorum and order rules for school board meetings is required. Should you violate any of the aforementioned rules of decorum in any future school board meetings, you may be excluded from attendance in all future school board meetings. And Carolyn Rye and Dr. Donald Robinson signed it. I find it interesting. There's a woman named Kamala, the deputy city attorney, on there too.
Yeah, she's the city attorney for the school board. The funny thing is they're trying to tell us that we're out of line. They're the ones who are out of line, and they're just trying to shine the light off of them onto us. And
unbelievable.
And I'm going to stand up, and the more I stand up, the more parents. Our rallies are growing like crazy. It's like wildfire, because the closer we get to the school opening, the more parents are getting nervous. And I'm going to do everything I can to try to start some homeschool pods and just to help parents to figure out what to do, because they are absolutely evil. And I am going to call them out, because that is what I'm called to do as a child of God.
Amen. I love your resolve, and I love your passion. Annie Palumbo from Virginia Beach, Virginia. And did I get something wrong there? Did I say the wrong name or something?
You said Chesapeake, but that's okay because I mentioned Chesapeake in my.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, so they did mandate, the masks were optional in Chesapeake and not Virginia Beach, but that's when the governor came down with his hammer and said, nope, now everybody has to wear them. It's amazing in our town right now. I was in a store yesterday and 99% of people had their masks on. We are backwards right now. Virginia is, I know we talked last night, but Virginia is, we need to vote our governor out.
People are afraid. Well, you've got Ralph Baby Killer Gun Hater Northam on one hand, and you've got Terry McAuliffe on another hand. And it looks like he's the front runner right now, correct? And he's a failed governor from before.
Yeah, he's horrible. So yeah, people better get out and vote. Although, I say that, but I'm not sure with regards to election integrity. So I think at this point, everybody has to really pray and get out there and resist. Tell them, no, we're not doing this anymore. We do have a school board meeting on Tuesday. They've tried to silence me. And like I said last night, they even, local news all over the place, how we were out of line and everything. So they're trying to make a bad name for us, but they want us to be masked up for the meeting. And I refuse to wear a mask in the meeting. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with that meeting on Tuesday, but stay tuned.
Well, make sure you've got video rolling because this is going to be watched nationally, and whatever happens to you is going to be widely reported, and it's only going to be good for the cause. Now, of course, you went off on mask mandates on this audio we played and your viral video. Make sure you've got video rolling, but you also mentioned I think CRT and gender theory. And you're obviously pushing back against that as well.
Exactly. They lie all the time and say it's not out there. So a few meetings ago, they actually disguised it as SEL, which the general public doesn't know what that means. It's social emotional learning. It was on page, I think, 82 or something, 182 of the agenda, to the point where we couldn't even find it. They put stuff on the agenda that the general public doesn't understand. Thank God we dig for information, but they actually have books on Schoolology, which is a website that our children go to, white nationalist movement. It's awful. The books they have available to kids, so they can sit there and say all day long, it's not in our schools. It is in our schools.
Right. They're just
for transgender to be that's on the agenda for Tuesday. They want boys to who decide they want to be a girl to go in the bathrooms with the girls, and even on school trips they now want these boys to be able to say, well, I'm Susie today, so I want to stay in the same hotel room with Jane and Mary. It's insane. These people are evil.
It is. It's you said it. It's evil. It is evil. And there, this whole agenda where you can use whatever restroom you feel like. Some people feel like they aren't even human. There's this new trend. I'm a bunny today. We played a TikTok video by some young woman who, I can't even remember. It was just so odd. It was so strange and so unnatural. It just gives you a creepy feeling. And now you're seeing our kids who our boys who are identifying as girls wanting to be in athletics with girls' teams, and now they're starting to win the races. There comes a point where the Constitution has to rule the day, and people are trampling all over it because where my right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness conflicts with yours, then we've got to come to some kind of a resolution. Now, I'm of the school of thought, and I don't know if you're there or not, Annie. We haven't discussed it that much. But if you want to identify as a woman or a man or a boy or a girl, or do whatever you want to do. Do whatever you want to do. Who am I to tell you how to live your life? But do not butt heads with my constitutional right or my child's, and we'll be good. But when you start pushing your agenda so it affects my kids, it affects me, it affects my quality of life, all bets are off at that point.
That is exactly correct. I mean, you know, I would like to know what would happen if, let's say, one of the school board members were in the women's bathroom, let's say at a meeting, and a man was in there. How would they? I think the first thing they would say is, "Oh my gosh, get out of here!" But they expect kids to do it. It is child abuse in a different name, and that is what's happening. They are. I can't believe we are here where we are right now. I urge every parent to get their kid out of public school and do what you can. You know, quit your job, work at night. I mean,
I know. It's hard. People are hard pressed to come up with some kind of a resolution because you have two working parents. You don't have, but they're starting. I had a guest on recently, Annie, that talked about community members organizing these homeschool committees, and they're doing it as sort of a community. And this is where we form a community by our own desires, not because government is forcing us into a community we don't want to be in, which is what communism is, but because we see a need, we form a community in partnerships with like-minded people, and that's the way a community should form, and that's the way it should grow, not but by choice, not by edict. And so there are alternatives, creative ones too, coming up out there. And I think public schools are going to be a hurting unit, you know, as time goes on, thanks in large part, I think, to COVID-19 and the fact that people watching these Zoom classes have seen what is going on in the classroom, where before, you know, nobody ever knew. Kids don't talk about what they're learning if they think it's normal, and they're being taught everything is normal.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny how all of this has exposed. God has a funny way of playing chess, per se. You know, everything has been exposed because of COVID. We would have never known. You know, we've always been told, don't talk about politics or religion. You know why we were told that? Oh, let's suppress the truth. Don't talk about it. Turn a blind ear. You know, parents nowadays are so busy working all day. Right. 9 hours, 2 hours in traffic. They get home. They have enough time to make dinner for the kids, put them to bed, do homework, that everybody has been asleep. But everybody better wake up, because I am in the thick of this, and we've had so many people say, oh, this isn't in there. It's in there, and it's getting worse. And I'm actually interviewing with a homeschool pod group on Monday. So we started a YouTube channel. We just started it, so there's not much on there, called Empowered Parent. And that is just going to be a go-to place for everybody. We're trying to just pull people out of the schools and say, you have options. These homeschool pods, there's like 10 families. They pay to rent some space in the church. It's like $600 a month, and pay for a teacher. And then I believe some of the moms take turns teaching every once in a while. So, wow. So affordable and doable. I think God is bringing us back to the basics. There you go. Institutional systems and back to, you know, patriotism and family and Christianity in our schools.
Well, there you go. You get your reading, you get your writing, you get your arithmetic without all of the other stuff. And you also get, and this is important for kids, and I understand why, you know, some kids have a hard time socially adjusting if they've been homeschooled their whole life. I get that. But these pods, that's exactly what the term was. Thank you. But these pods are giving them the community and the social skills, and they still get a good, solid foundation based on, you know, Judeo-Christian ethics and traditional learning, which excludes all of the crap, if you will, all of the gristle. And I think that's a great thing. Now, how many children do you have, Annie?
I have one child. Okay.
And was he or she masked all last year?
Well, they did virtual most of last year.
Okay.
They went back, I can't remember, maybe April or so. And he's actually a senior this year, and he turns 18 this weekend. So he will have a choice to do. It's not my say. So I you know, yeah. So they weren't masked all year because they weren't really in school all year. They shut them down for a long time. Wow. When he did go back, I think he only went back for a week or two. I can't remember, but I don't believe they were masked back then. They were actually, yes, they were, because they were actually made them be masked while they were outside doing recess. And I
is that right?
A crazy mom that drove by an elementary school one day. I was driving down the road, and I glanced and I saw all these elementary kids outside, 95 degrees in masks.
Wow.
I turned that car around. I pulled up and I said, "Hey kids, I'm fighting for you. We're going to get rid of these masks." Every kid yelled, "Yay!" And that was at the same time that one of the school board members had a yoga class for the school board employees outside, and we got them on video without masks. So
of course,
called out the mask. All of a sudden, the mask thing disappeared. I'm not taking credit for that. I don't know what happened, but they actually had our children outside doing sports in masks, and it's very humid here. We live on the East Coast, so it's insane what they're doing. It is insane.
So you've actually got people going around now and seeking some of these people out in public places who are mask Nazis, and you're actually getting pictures of them.
So yeah, I was at a school board retreat in July. So I'm kind of a watchdog mom. I sit in the meetings, and I also, I'm a single mom, so it's not like I'm just a mom that, anyway, so I'm taking time. If I could do it, anybody can. I take time out of my schedule to keep my thumb on the pulse, but we were in a school board retreat. I took video. I was like, wait a minute, there's all these kids in summer school right now with masks. This was in July. There were about 50 school board administrators, school board members in this meeting without masks, except one school board member. Her name is Dottie Holtz. And so she's all masked up and scared. They broke for lunch. I ran into a thrift store. I'm like, I have an hour to kill. I love thrift stores. Stopped in the thrift store. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's Dottie in there without her mask. So I got my camera out and I confronted her and I said, "Why are you without a mask?" And she said, "I needed a break." I said, "Well, our kids need a break." So they did not like that. They do not like me calling them out, and I call them out. I'm gonna, you know what? I told my son, he's getting ready. He's almost he's an adult, basically.
Right.
I said, you know what? I really care about him. But I said, I hope you understand. I'm fighting for the little kids who really don't have a voice right now. I mean, I don't even know these kids, but I just care when you see them and you just see their little eyes. And as a mom of I remember when he was small, packing his lunch and putting a note in his lunchbox. And I can't imagine saying, "Here you go, honey, here's your lunch. Have a great day. Oh, and here's your mask. Have fun muzzling up all day."
Yeah, no, I can't even imagine. You say the little eyes, and I try to make this case when it comes to, this pro-choice movement. They, obviously, my mindset and yours too, I'm sure, is, as soon as the egg is fertilized, trajectory's been set, and so that second you can actually look down and picture little eyes looking back up at you with their arms out, wanting a hug, just wanting to be held by mama. Yeah. And if you picture that before you go in for an abortion, you might say, is this what I'm doing? People, this is a great thing about the human mind. We have the ability to see these things, to imagine these things. And if you imagine little eyes with tears rolling down them, looking up, saying, "Mama, don't kill me." I mean,
that's a great point.
It might change your mind. I know. But no, you're so right. And I love your resolve. I've got to ask you, how many people on the school board who are the masked Nazis or any other type of Nazis, how many of them don't have children themselves?
I don't think any of them have children, honestly.
Is that right?
Yeah, they don't have children, and I'm like, they should be nowhere near children. I know I sent you the graphic yesterday of Beverly Anderson, one of the school board members, who put a picture up on her Facebook. This is someone who makes decisions for your children. It was a picture of an intubation. It was somebody who intubated, and she said, "You think the masks are uncomfortable?" I'm like, "You are the boogeyman. You are the boogeyman."
Right.
And I said that in my speech, that the kids worry about under our bed. I mean, we have 0 deaths of children from 19 under in Virginia. 0.
Wow.
So to instill fear like this in our kids, and that's what I see when I see kids on the bus, all masked up, and so this is an interesting fact as well. Virginia Beach voted a few years ago to no seat belts needed on school buses. So you'll put them in a projectile, whatever vehicle without seat belts, because you think it's unsafe for them to have seat belts, but you're going to put a mask on them.
Right.
Hypocrisy at its finest.
I don't know how many people were upset or took me wrong last hour, and I'm gonna ask our next guest, who is here from Rhode Island, Nicole Solis. Welcome to Freedom's Pep Rally. How are you this morning?
Hi, I'm really good. Happy to be here.
Good, great to have you here. I said something last hour. I don't know if you concur or not. It'll be interesting. And I don't know if I made anybody upset. I didn't mean to. I said that you shouldn't run for and be on a school board if you don't have kids. That was my advice. Was that off base? Does that make sense?
Well, I think that if you're a taxpayer, you have a stake in your school district.
Yeah.
So, because what I'm finding, and in my town in the beginning, people who didn't know that I had a daughter that was enrolled in the school district were saying, well, you don't even have a kid. Well, why are you talking about our school district? Well, 80% of my municipal taxes go to the school district. So I think if you're a taxpayer, you have a stake, and that's enough.
Okay. All right. All right.
Sorry, I disagree.
No. You've made a good point. I thought after I said it, I thought because we talked with another lady, Annie Palumbo, last hour, who is having the same type of situation in Virginia, and and all of the people, she doesn't think any of the people making these totalitarian rules on the school board have children, and I know there are.
I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people on school committees who are making great decisions for children. They're in the minority and they may not have children. So
right.
I think that might be a bit of a red herring. I think when you're fighting people with ideological extremist views on a school committee, I think you really need to focus on their views and less on their, personal backgrounds if their personal backgrounds are not directly related to their ideological positions.
Perfect. Thank you for that. That's levity. If I came off a little harsh, again, it was only passion. So
this is a very personal thing.
Yeah.
Our children are being leveraged in this war with school districts, so people are getting upset. But right here, I think demonstrated. You have a position, I have a position, we're able to talk about it civilly. I say I disagree, and maybe you're still going to disagree with me, and that's fine. But instead, we're finding that school districts are retaliating against people who disagree with them, like with me, calling me racist, hiring a PR firm to defame me in the national media. So we need to continue having open debate, and it's okay if we disagree, but we need to do that more, not less.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously, you feel that we've got to be real careful, this slippery slope we're going down when it comes to critical race theory and gender theory. And this actually was the impetus. You're requesting documents under the it's not the Freedom of Information Act necessarily, but another more local one. Is that right, in Rhode Island?
Right. So your state has a Public Records Act. In Rhode Island, it's called the Access to Public Records Act. My school actually has a Google link on their website where you can just request a record in 2 seconds. So It's very easy to do for me. It depends on the public entity you're requesting it from. Some require, a paper request. Others you can email, and you have to follow the rules. But normally, if you're just, at least in my state, if you're stating a request and it's clearly a request for a public record, then that should be a sufficient request.
Okay, and so that's what you did, and you wanted to know basically, what is the curriculum being taught to kindergartners when it comes to critical race theory and so forth.
Right, and my school told me to submit public records requests. I initially just asked them on the phone, and then I had to ask them in email, and then they said submit a public records request, and so that was the only way they would engage me on this topic. And I submitted a request for the curriculum. And when I looked at the curriculum, it was very opaque. It's like hard to fish through all these links. And actually, just today, I did find evidence of critical race theory in the curriculum. So this is kind of a new development that I'm investigating. But when I initially asked for all this information, the principal told me that they don't call kids boys and girls. So I had asked about gender theory too, that they refrain from using gender terminology, that they embed the values of gender theory in the classroom. And that's sort of a key expression. embedding the values. What they really mean is they integrate it in a way where it's sort of like slipped in and hidden.
Right.
That's indoctrination. You know, you shouldn't be embedding values. You should be talking openly about things so we know what is being taught. And then with critical race theory, I asked, are you teaching that? You know, and all the buzzwords are anti-racism, equity. Those are all the principal and tenets of critical race theory. And she said that we teach children a certain line of thinking about history in every grade at an age appropriate level. And then I said, well, what do you do in kindergarten? And they said, well, we ask them when they learn about Thanksgiving, what could have been done differently on the first Thanksgiving? So, I mean, this is like an affirmative answer, right? Like, yeah, we're doing this. And the argument that you're hearing back is like, oh, well, we're not teaching a graduate level theory in kindergarten, Nicole. But that is a semantics game. It's intellectually dishonest to respond to that, because here's the truth. The thing that I'm talking about is the thing that they're talking about. And the only thing they want to argue about is the label. So
Right.
they are lying and they're being intellectually dishonest. And the reason why they're doing that is because they know they can't overcome a challenge on the merits. If we have open debate about this in school committee meetings and we start challenging them on the basis that they are discriminating against people on the basis of race, they're going to lose, and they don't want to lose the debate. So they don't want to have the debate. So what do
Right.
they do? They retaliate against people like me. They call me racist. They try to bully me and shut me down because they're hoping that other people will now go, oh, I don't want to be like Nicole. I don't want to be called a racist in the national media. So I'm just not going to ask questions. I'm going to put my head in the sand. So that is the name of the game. It's really simple. It's blatant deception.
And so you requested these records, you got these records, and you're onto them. You see what they're trying to do, and you're not going to stop. And so what have they done? They filed a lawsuit. They billed you for the public records that you requested. You got a bill from the school board. Now the NEA is suing you?
Right. So first, my school district threatened to sue me in a public meeting. They put my name on the agenda because their intent was to humiliate me and silence me. It was a 5-hour meeting where they discussed my moral character. They've never even met me. They discussed my political agenda that they think I have. They said that I was trying to cripple the school district, attack education. Then the NEA of South Kingstown, where I live, held a private NEA meeting where they put my name and pictures on slides and said I was an attack on public education for 250 teachers to see. And I'm just a mom. I'm nobody in my community. And they're making me out to be this enemy of the state because I submitted public records requests about critical race theory and gender theory, which they told me to do. So they set me up. They said, do this, and okay, and then we'll attack you for doing this.
Wow. Wow. And whoops. Oh boy. Whoops, hold on. We get you back here. Lost you for a second. There you are.
Okay. Sorry about that. So my school committee voted not to sue me because I had a tidal wave of support come out to support me and say that they wanted transparency in the school district. 2 months later, the NEA is suing me. And the NEA wants to prevent the disclosure of public information. And they're arguing that if they let public information come out about how teachers are involved or engaged in discussions about CRT, then their teachers will be, quote, harassed. Of course, no one cares that they're harassing me with frivolous litigation because
Right.
the truth is they have no standing to bring this lawsuit. There's Rhode Island Supreme Court case law saying a third party in their position cannot interfere with a public records request between me and a public entity. So this is strategic litigation against public participation. That was part of my attorney's answer. And they're doing this to bully me and silence me. And they're being, so negligent. It's like they filed this lawsuit with their eyes closed.
Well, this is how they operate, though. You and I both know this is how they operate. Everything's a knee-jerk reaction. And if I'm not mistaken, the NEA is led by Randy Weingarten, is it not?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and she is all over the critical race theory and the gender theory and everything woke. She is all for. And where I think I know where you stand on this. You don't want to see this taught. And what will you do? And you've clearly found that it is being taught under a different moniker. Now, how do you respond to it at this point? Do you pull your kids out of school? Do you continue to try to make change? And all while this is going on, you've got to answer to this lawsuit, which you have good representation, I guess, from the Goldwater Foundation.
Yeah, the Goldwater Institute is representing me. They're an excellent public interest law firm. And the answer to all your questions is yes, all of the above. So I pulled my daughter out of public school. I'm now in private school. I asked them if they teach gender theory or critical race theory. They said no. And in the meantime, my goal is to continue to expose this public school corruption and indoctrination. And I'm also going to fight it because I'm not going to fund this garbage silently, because that is what this is. This is education garbage. It's not real education. And you're paying a lot of money for this. In my town, it's like $20,000 or $27,000 a student in taxes. I mean, you may as well go to private school and get a better education for a cheaper price. So I'm gonna keep fighting this and raising awareness. And I think another tactic that a lot of public interest law firms are interested in is challenging these policies at public school on the basis of already existing anti-discrimination laws, because schools are violating anti-discrimination laws like Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act that say that you can't be racist when you give someone an education. You know, you can't discriminate on the basis of race, national origin, or color. And schools are doing that. And what they're saying is, oh, well, now we're doing it for a good reason. That's really what this is. It's like racism for a good reason.
So they say that making your kindergartner racist, teaching them that they are an oppressor if they're white, and they are being oppressed by their white friends if they are black or Hispanic or, you know, whatever race or ethnicity they are. They're saying they're teaching children how to be racist before they've even learned their colors or how to add and subtract.
Yeah, they're integrating it into lessons, like I said, with the Thanksgiving lesson, which is meant to start this line of thinking that their heritage is somehow bad, that something went wrong on Thanksgiving, that we should redeem, and then it comes back to colonialism and privilege and Europeanism. So they're planting that seed young. And I wanted to know then, well, what are all these practices? Because that's what they do. They call them common practices that they do. Well, what are these common practices that you do in every grade? Why don't we go through that timeline and let's talk about that, right? They don't want to have that conversation. And yet they're the ones that are saying things like, we need to have honest conversations about lived it. Well, let's start having those honest conversations about these honest conversations you want to have. And yeah, they're teaching kids that they should discriminate on the basis of race. And they're saying that it's a moral imperative, that we must atone for things on the basis of our race. There was even an article written in my community that said, and these are people involved with the school on a committee that is meant to revise curriculum based on critical race theory. They said that people don't know who they really are unless they trace their ancestry back to someone racist like a slave owner. And so that was really eye-opening for me, because I thought, well, this is radical indoctrination. What you want to do is break down the identity of a child and redefine it as central to their race. And you know what that is? That's what a cult does. The first thing a cult does is break down your sense of identity and then get you to believe that your identity is based on whatever framework they give you. So that way you're now dependent on all of their doctrines and dogma. So this is much worse than just, oh, we're learning accurate history. And if parents start investigating their school districts and they start reading the local news about all of these activists, they'll find that evidence, because it's not hidden. It's just parents aren't paying attention, but now they are.
They are. Thanks in large. But if anything good came out of COVID-19, it's the Zoom classes and the transparency that was sort of forced on the teachers, with parents in the back. Parents who, by the way, in many schools were forbidden from listening in on Zoom classes. Isn't that special? I don't know how that worked for you there in Rhode Island, but in a lot of places, you weren't allowed as a parent to be listening to what was going on in your kids' classes.
I mean, that's incredible. Incredible. I mean, how can I be paying for a class at public school with my taxes and then not be able to just listen to it? I mean, that I mean, you'd have to get, someone who knows the law, but I just don't see how that's legal. How can I not know what my kid is learning?
It doesn't make any sense at all. But they're bringing it down to a much lower grade level now because not so many kids. I mean, a lot of kids are going into the trades or into the service, and not going to the 4-year colleges where this indoctrination has been taught for years. And kids are literally coming out in, cult fashion. I am woke. Woke is good. And now they're bringing it down to the lower levels to get all the kids they were missing. And it's even moving into the military now. And this is it's a very scary time, Nicole.
It's very scary. And, I think we have a lot of red herrings in this debate.
Yeah.
So if I could just distill it down to the key concept that I think this is really about, which is at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you think critical race theory is good or bad. It doesn't matter. Critical race theory is and it is a way of viewing the world that you can subscribe to if you want as an adult. You can feel free to believe critical race theory is good.
Right.
But at the end of the day, public school cannot constitutionally impose any lessons or principles or tenets of critical race theory on your kid, because teaching a political viewpoint, one political viewpoint and no other viewpoint, is not constitutional. It's meaningfully the same thing as religious instruction. We get
exactly.
it. Right. And great. We get that some people think critical race theory is awesome and you think that is the way to live your life. Well, the way you live your life is not the way other people want to live theirs. And public school is not your political pulpit to pound away at your personal dogmas and politics.
That is so well said. And that's the way they treat it, though. They treat it as they are the teacher. They have a pulpit, and they are imposing the state-run religion of the day, whatever it is, whether it's gender theory or critical race theory. It's their opinion, and they're imposing it on kids. And kids suck things up like a sponge. And you tell them something, especially a teacher who they are taught to respect. They've got them. They've got them at a very young age, which makes it easier, or rather tougher, for them to, gain some objectivity as they get older. And it's a very scary place. And we need more people like you. I wonder how many people, Nicole Solis, are there in your area that are doing the same type of informational campaign as you are and getting pushback?
A lot. So there are a lot of groups online that have forums where they're sharing evidence and information, and they're doing it a lot with public records requests. Because if your school is not going to give you information, the only recourse you have is a public records request to get those documents to show the evidence. So people should go online, form your own groups, join groups. You just have to, go on Facebook and search for one in your area, and then you can start learning what your school is doing and all the evidence that other people are posting.
Now, a lot of this stuff will not be online, though, at your school district, because they're trying. Do you think they're actively trying to hide it, especially now that we're on to them? Are they actively trying to hide it now?
Yeah. So, for example, I just was looking at the curriculum that my school gave me. And, like I said, when I first read it, I didn't see things jumping out at me. But then I go and I click on this link that's supposed to be a supplementary teaching link, right? It's a teacher resource. And you click on it and it says right there that we want to frame lessons in terms of social justice, and then they define social justice as a redistribution of wealth, power, and resources, on the basis of race. And it's just like,
wow.
Okay, so that's critical race theory. Because that is a goal of critical race theory, is this redistribution of wealth, power, and resources on the basis of a racial caste system. So, like I said, the school will do the semantic game with you, and they're going to gaslight you, and they're going to say, we don't teach critical race theory because we don't have a critical race theory book or a critical race theory class. But instead what they have are all these teaching resources that help teachers frame lessons according to this ideology.
Critical theory begat critical race theory. It's Marxist in its ideology, in its very basic form. It's Marxism. It's totalitarianism. And I'm glad people like you and I and our listeners see that.
Yeah, and you know, what's really scary, especially about Marxism, is that it's very seductive to young people
Yes.
because when you're young, you really want to start proving yourself in the world, right? You want to do something important. You believe that helping people is a great thing, and it is, but you have people who want to use you as a political vehicle and take advantage of that. Ideal young person who just wants to make a difference. And they're not going to tell you that all this activism has maybe a darker side to it. They just want to use you for all of your energy and your idealism. And kids that are 16 years old, they're going to hop right on that. And because they want to be important. And everyone wants to feel important. Everyone wants to do good things. But they're being taken advantage of. And it's really just devastating that a person in power would abuse their power like that.
Wow. Boy, I appreciate what you have gone through to get the notoriety you've got today, but you're getting the word out. You're getting it out nationally. I saw you on Laura Ingraham recently. You've been on Fox News a couple of times. Have CNN or MSNBC invited you on?
No, they're not exactly knocking on my door.
I didn't figure they would be. No, you're doing a great thing, Nicole Solis, and I wish you the best of luck with this lawsuit. Obviously, it has no standing, but they're still costing you time, probably resources, and they're doing it. They're doing it to make a point that, and by calling you racist, isn't that the way they operate?
Yeah, and it's really sad because calling someone a racist, it used to be a very powerful thing, but now they call everyone racist, and all they did was disempower the most powerful word that used to belong to the most powerless people. And you can thank liberal elites for doing that to people that really needed that word to be used to help them when they are legitimately being targeted on the basis of race.
Amen. And they've done that with a lot of words, but racist is a big one. That used to be the most hurtful word you could call somebody or be called. And now it's, whatever. So you're right.
No one takes it seriously now, and that's terrible because it is something that should be taken very seriously.
Absolutely. And yes, there is racism in the world. No, we're never going to be able to completely get rid of it. Yes, we need to address it as it happens. But this is the wrong way to go about it, by excoriating and demonizing an entire group of people and pushing for Marxism in what up till now has been a free country. I've had guests, though, if this is any solace at all, I've had several guests, a couple of great military men yesterday, who said that we're going to get through this. The Constitution is alive and well, maybe stronger than ever now. But now more than ever, we need voices like yours. And thank you for all you're doing and all of the people you're touching. And I hope you get through the stuff you're going through right now, which is it's an annoyance. It's very distracting from your mission, which is to help the schools and help your own school and your own children.
Yeah, parents, they just want their kids to go to school, and we just want them to thrive and be happy. And it's really unfair to be taking away what should be a really happy time for families. And
Amen. Well, listen, I really appreciate your time. Is there anything we've missed that you think is important? Because I love having you here, and I want you to give us anything you've got that you think could be helpful.
Yeah, if parents want to know information about what's going on in their school district, submit public records requests. And you need to be asking for the buzzwords like equity, oppression, privilege, implicit bias. You can even just say something like, give me public documents with those keywords, say in the past month or something, and you're going to have to play around with these public records requests. They'll come back and they'll give you really high estimates. Like for me, they quoted me something at like $9,000. And then I challenged them on it and it dropped to $75. Just remember that there is a human being at the other end of your public records request. You don't have to be intimidated by this process. This process is meant for citizens. It's for open government. So that way our civil servants work for us. And start engaging your public school. Remember, they're the government. They work for you. Get the evidence of the documents showing that critical race theory is in your district. So that way you can begin with evidence and then you can start challenge your school district on what they're doing.
That's great advice. Nicole Solis, thank you very, very much.
Thank
And
you.
and stay strong, stay resolute, and stay in touch with us, or I'll stay. I know you're very busy, but we'll keep an eye on what you're doing. I'm sure we'll be seeing you around quite a bit.
Thank you.
You have a great day. Have a great weekend, Nicole.
You too.
Bye now.
Bye.